All right, let's pull back the curtain on our digital lives for a second. There is this invisible code that is constantly shaping our choices, our feelings, and even our sense of what's real. And in a lot of ways, it's the code that's now controlling us. No, I mean, have you really ever stopped to wonder? You know that feeling when you look up from your phone and somehow an entire hour has just disappeared? It happens to all of us, but believe me, it is not an accident. It is absolutely by design. And it's the same thing here. The reason our politics can feel so much like a video game, with clear good guys, bad guys, and these simple, repeatable missions, it's because those stories are designed to be powerful, easy to grasp, and incredibly good at grabbing our attention. So here's the crucial part. Once you can actually see the code, you're no longer just a passenger being pulled along by these forces. You can actually start to take the wheel. So let's peel back that first layer, shall we? To really get a handle on our digital world, we first have to understand the original operating system. I'm talking about the one that's been running inside our heads for thousands of years. This is the mind's back end. And what's so fascinating is where the word cyber actually comes from. It has literally nothing to do with computers or the internet. It's from an ancient Greek word for a steersman, the person guiding a ship. So cybernetics is really the study of how we steer ourselves. And this is the basic loop that system runs on constantly, every single second of your life. You sense something in the world, you evaluate it based on your goals and values, you choose what to do, and then you act. This simple feedback loop, that's the fundamental code of you. Now, this is a pretty mind-bending idea, but it's absolutely fundamental. You aren't seeing the world. You're seeing your brain's best guess of the world. So in a very real way, you're already living inside a virtual reality, the one your own mind is creating for you right now. So if our mind is the back end, then the digital world, social media, the web, all of it, is this incredibly powerful front end that plugs directly into it. Let's look at how that connection actually works. You see, the internet didn't just invent a whole new reality out of thin air. It just built this massive, high-speed extension of the virtual world we are already navigating inside our own heads. All the same psychological rules apply, but now they're operating at the speed of light. And this is the part you really have to get. These digital spaces are not neutral. They are engineered environments. Every single app has an invisible architecture, a psychological blueprint designed specifically to steer your behavior by turning certain dials up or down. For example, let's take the biggest dial of all, identity. On a site like Reddit, anonymity turns that identity dial way down low. So the space becomes all about ideas and hobbies. But on LinkedIn, using your real name turns that dial all the way up, demanding your most professional self. It's the same person, but you get totally different behavior, all because of one little architectural choice. The exact same thing goes for the dimension of time. Snapchat, with its disappearing messages, creates this playful, low-pressure kind of vibe, right? But a Facebook wall, that feels permanent. It feels like a public record. So what do? We become way more careful and curated. The architecture is literally programming how we perform. Okay, so what actually happens when our ancient, kind of slow-moving brain starts living inside this new, high-speed digital architecture? Well, let's dive into some of the consequences. This simple truth is our internal operating system just wasn't designed for this kind of speed, for this kind of scale, for this kind of constant performance. And that mismatch, it creates some very predictable and very powerful psychological effects. One of the biggest effects is on our identity. Psychologists talk about these three competing selves we're all juggling. There's the actual self, that's who you really are deep down. Then there's the ideal self, who you want to be. And finally, the ought self. That's who you feel you should be, based on what everyone else expects. The internet has become the main stage for performing those last two. And the result is something called the saturated self. It's that feeling of just being mentally exhausted from being your professional self on LinkedIn, your perfect parent self on Facebook, and your witty, anonymous self on Reddit. You want to know the quickest way to spot this in your own life? Just notice that feeling of relief when you close all the apps. That is the weight of the saturated self lifting off your shoulders. This brings us to a huge factor in online behavior, the feeling that you're anonymous. That sense of distance from other people makes our normal social filters just, evaporate. The little voice in your head that stops you from saying something rude to someone's face, it often just vanishes completely online. But here's the thing. This isn't all bad. This effect really has two sides to it. The benign side can lead to incredible kindness, to people sharing their deepest vulnerabilities with total strangers. But the toxic side? Well, that's where you get the harassment and the rage. It's the exact same psychological mechanism, just pointed in two very, very different directions. All of this brings us to the final, and I think the most important question. In this huge, complex system of digital architecture, who is actually in control? Who is steering the ship? There's this term that really captures our new reality. It's Homo cyberneticus, which basically means the human who is steered. We are living inside these massive digital and cultural systems that are constantly pushing and pulling our decisions and our attention. Now, the answer isn't to just throw your phone in a lake and log off forever. The real solution is to become a better steersman. It's about understanding your own internal operating system, your own back end, so you can consciously navigate the front end world. It can be as simple as asking yourself, wait, why am I opening this app right now, before you actually do it? And this is the final, most empowering thought of all. These systems, these codes, they're all built on symbols and stories that we all collectively create and agree on. And that means we don't just have to be passive users. We have the power to question, to interpret, and ultimately to help rewrite the code. So, I'll just leave you with this one question to chew on. In a world full of algorithms, architectures, and stories all fighting for your attention, who really is steering your ship?